is going on, Headliner Nation? Jake and Kyle coming back to talk about week 3, Kyle, otherwise known as the week that maybe most people probably want to forget because we had so many studs, which are studs who dudded. We had a ton of injuries and a ton of people just a little bit frustrated with some of these players here this year. And the list seems to get longer by the week. But in this episode, we got some studs, some hits and misses from just last week.
I've got a little research I think I'm going to do at some point after the start and sit videos, because I'm interested in a question I have, but I don't want to give it away to anybody just yet.
So you're going to tease us.
There might be a super interesting video coming, or I just might be full of crap and it's nothing, and then you won't see a video.
So after you do your research, you'll figure out whether
we'll figure it out.
Okay,
we'll figure it out. I also just realized that you are using a different camera today.
What happened, Kyle, is, I guess I just turned this one on and not the other one.
Let the record show that Jake likes the way he looks from the side more than the front.
Actually, no, that's probably not a true statement. I'll hear. Let me see if I can get totally straight here, Kyle. I'll sit sideways at my desk just for you. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. Let's kick it off with some studs first, because there were so many stud players that no matter probably what anybody told you, you were probably going to start them anyway, but then they absolutely bombed in week 3. Justin Herbert is on this list. Now, I understand a lot of people may have been somewhat worrisome about starting him with the rib cartilage injury, but when word came out that he was going to start, he was going to get a shot, he was going to be good to go, people threw him in their lineup, and they got absolutely disappointed. And honestly, watching that game, I don't feel like he belongs on the field. Like he did not look 100% healthy. You can tell he's a little bit gun shy. The offense as a whole just did not look good. There's no flow to the offense. So Justin Herbert didn't help anybody out. Neither did Matthew Stafford in a matchup going up against the Arizona Cardinals. He wasn't great this past week. But I kind of want to get into the running backs, was where we're going to spend a little bit of time, Kyle, because
can I just go through them real quick and then we'll talk about them a little bit each one, because I want to point something out.
Okay, go ahead.
Austin Eckler, first round pick.
Yep.
Leonard Fournette, probably third round pick, maybe late second for some people. Jonathan Taylor, first overall pick. Alvin Kamara, probably second round pick, maybe early third, depending on how early you drafted in the offseason. DeAndre Swift, second round pick. Joe Mixon, late first, early second, depending on your league. Aaron Jones, second-ish, probably, maybe late first, depending on where you drafted.
Yep.
David Montgomery, probably third or fourth round, depending. Javonte Williams, late first, early second, depending on where you're.
It's like everybody in the early rounds right now is struggling.
Holy crap.
But here's what's crazy about it is I'll see people that make comments every once in a while, and I actually saw one in our listener league chat yesterday. It's like, well, this is why I don't want to go running back early in drafts. Well, the next two names on the list are Tyreek Hill and Justin Jefferson. So, another guy, Justin Jefferson, somebody you spent a mid-first round pick on, struggling. Devontae Adams has not been great the last 2 weeks. He's being saved by touchdowns.
Saved his day with a rushing touchdown yesterday.
Yeah, it's just overall bad right now, and I think a lot of people are in panic mode, and we made that video last week telling people just to relax. Everybody's sucking right now, so it's not like it's just like you drafted a bad team. But when you go back through those running backs, honestly, we talked about it. You have Eckler, Fournette, Taylor, Kamara, Swift, Mixon, Jones, Montgomery, and then Javonte Williams. The one that I'm probably the most concerned on with this list right here may be Austin Eckler. And it's so much to me like I don't understand what his role is this year. I thought we had a clearly defined role with Austin Eckler. I expected them to lean a little bit more on him with Justin Herbert not being 100%. That didn't really happen. Sony Michel is doing nothing to take away touches. Like he's not doing anything great on the field to take something away from Austin Eckler. I'm starting to worry. I'm not panicking yet, Kyle, but I'm starting to worry a little bit about Austin Eckler.
Well, I think the biggest issue about yesterday's game is the score, and knowing that they're down, they're essentially out of it. There's really no reason to continue. Now, why they left Justin Herbert out there is beyond me. Apparently, he kept telling them, "I want to stay out there. I don't want to come out of the game." That makes sense, but they haven't really been in a position this year where they have been able to just run the football consistently. Now, week 1 going up against Las Vegas, they ended up winning 24-19. Austin Eckler only had 14 carries for 36 yards. But again, until and really they took out to that lead in the second quarter there, and then they were kind of done after that, and they kind of coasted. They didn't really run the football. But then the next 2 weeks, or the last 2 weeks, they've been down. They've been down to the Chiefs, and they've been down to Jacksonville. So they haven't had a chance to really just run the football. So we'll see what happens in the coming weeks against the Texans. I think will be a really good indication on where we stand with that. And then I think the Browns as well, because I think you're going to have to run into the Browns a little bit. But if we get out of the next 2 weeks and we don't know at that point, then yes, we got to panic on Austin Eckler, because he was not what we anticipated.
Leonard Fournette kind of in the same situation yesterday. Aaron Rodgers drove down the field two times early in that game, got an early lead, and then all of a sudden Tom Brady's going into trying to panic, throw it down the field to whoever he can possibly get to catch a pass in Tampa Bay. Jonathan Taylor. I'm not freaking out about Jonathan Taylor just yet. This is a team that's going to be heavily reliant on him. He just has had 2 down weeks. Alvin Kamara, I'm not high on Alvin Kamara. I haven't really been for quite a while, so I don't want to, have that preseason, off-season bias come into play right now. But Alvin Kamara does not seem 100% healthy. He does not seem a huge part of the game plan when he is out there, because they have so many other options. DeAndre Swift, he's banged up now. He may miss a few weeks with a shoulder sprain, I believe it is, and that is not good. I mean, now obviously, hopefully you got Jamal Williams out there, but missing DeAndre Swift, that dude was winning you matchups the last couple weeks. Joe Mixon, another guy. Does he miss any time right now? Wasn't able to finish the game in week 3. Aaron Jones, okay, he had a down week, but I'm pretty sure we all somewhat knew that this was a possibility going up against the Tampa Bay defense in week 3.
He also fumbled the ball right at the goal line.
That was not ideal either. But yeah, not overly surprised about a down performance from Aaron Jones. I expect him to bounce back. David Montgomery went out super early, and then we watched Khalil Herbert run all over the field. And the only thing I could think of on the inside was like, man, this should be David Montgomery right now. Like, this is what I expected David Montgomery to do today, and we're watching Khalil Herbert do it. Javonte Williams, all of a sudden we're seeing a little bit more Melvin Gordon. Melvin Gordon gets the touchdown last night. There's just a lot of things going on in the backfields right now that are causing people a lot of stress and panic. But when you look around the league, it is everywhere. There are very few options. I mean, can you really think of one player that just at some point hasn't struggled at some point in the first 3 weeks from the running back position? If you drafted them early, they're all pretty much struggling. Najee Harris hasn't had huge games. I mean, I guess we could say that Nick Chubb has been pretty consistent, but we about that Chubb life over here, Kyle. It's tough right now, but I expect a lot of these guys to bounce back here in the coming weeks.
Yep, 100%.
We talked about Tyreek Hill and Justin Jefferson, 2 guys that also underperformed. Tyreek Hill slightly tied due to the matchup with Buffalo. Tua got hurt. He was out. He was not going to come back. He came back. That's a huge thing that they're going to, investigate here over the next few weeks or so. Mike Williams only had 1 catch. Luckily, it was a touchdown. But some overall Sduds, Kyle. Overall Sduds.
Yep. Now, misses.
All right, Dr. Doom. Here we go again. Let's go right into our misses, because that's what we like to do. We talk about our hits. We talk about our misses. First one, we'll start off with quarterback. I knew this was going to happen. I knew it, but I didn't push it too hard. He was still outside my top 12. He wasn't ranked super high, but Joe Flacco I had as a start last week, because I'm like, dude, this guy had back-to-back 300-yard games. He's going into a contest in which I expect them to be losing, so they're going to have to throw the ball again, which they were. The problem was he couldn't hang on to the football or throw it to the right team, so that was an issue. Carson Wentz got absolutely annihilated by his former team in Philadelphia. All the Dameon Pierce truthers all of a sudden came back out because he got a touchdown. Nobody wants to pay attention to the fact that I've never said that I don't like Dameon Pierce. I didn't like where you had to draft him, and I didn't like his potential slow start to the season. He scored a touchdown. Just so figures. We talk about this with you all the time too, Kyle, like how you'll start somebody for a couple weeks, nothing happens, and then you sit them and they go off. That's me and Ramondre Stevenson right now. I am currently 0 for 3 on Ramondre Stevenson because I had him as a start the first 2 weeks, expecting what we saw in week 3, and it never happened. And it's probably because I finally sat him.
Yep.
I
hate that. I hate that.
That's the worstest. That's totally the worstest. Devin Singletary, another miss for me from the running back position. But honestly, I don't know if
we can passing game more than anything.
Yeah, and I don't know if we can really trust that going forward for right now. There's too many options in that backfield. We're starting to see more James Cook, Zach Moss, and we know Josh Allen's going to run it as well. So I'll take that miss on a weekly basis if I have to.
Yeah, Rashad Bateman as well. I've talked about this in the videos, but his first 2 weeks were basically built on big plays. And that was going to be very dangerous moving forward, that if he didn't start to see more volume, that we were going to be running him out there reliant on that big play, and he didn't get it this week, and because of that he didn't end up being a start. So unfortunately that was a big miss. I know I told a lot of people to start him on, during the live shows. Unfortunately it just didn't come through. I mean, it wasn't like a terribly awful day. He still like what, 53 yards
Yeah,
or
he had a
something.
fumble, I think, though, which kind of hurt.
Yeah, and he had a fumble. So
Yeah.
just that big play again wasn't there. So he didn't really have that big of a day that we've seen. Tyler Boyd, that Cincinnati offense, we talk about it all the time. One of those guys are going to have a big day. It happens. One person will have a big day. The other two, it's like, okay, who can score a touchdown? Luckily, all three of them had decent days. Tyler Boyd just had the biggest day of all of them.
Yep.
Romeo Dubes, probably my favorite nickname now.
Probably.
It would still be Albert, are you okay? But he hasn't done anything, so we're gonna forget about him
He
for
doesn't
right now.
deserve it.
The Dubes, I'm liking what I'm seeing from the Dubes. He's one of those guys where we had to see, really for me, another week, because just Green Bay hasn't been doing anything other than just spreading the ball around everywhere. So it was like, hey, who's really going to start to see the most volume? And it looks like it's going to be the Dubes moving forward. Chris Olave, talked about him this week quite a bit. He ended up being a sit because I thought his matchup was going to be the toughest matchup. Well, then Michael Thomas and Jarvis Landry ended up getting hurt. And then all of a sudden you see basically everything get pushed to Chris Olave. So Chris Olave did have a great day. For those of you that started him, awesome. It was unfortunately probably helped out a little bit about some injuries on that offense as well. And we'll have to see where we go from there. Brandon Cooks, I mean, he's a guy, been seeing the volume. There just hasn't been any production with the volume yet. So we got to keep an eye on that. DJ Moore, unfortunately, is becoming extremely inconsistent. I doubt he's going to be able to make it into a video as a start moving forward until we see some of that. It could end up going up a little bit. I think we need to, keep in mind that Baker Mayfield came into the offense very late. And we're trying to kind of get something established with him and everybody else. I mean, we saw it week 1 with Robbie Anderson. They ran the crap out of the ball this past week. DJ Moore did score in week 2. So there are going to be some inconsistencies, I think, in that offense until Baker Mayfield really integrates. Someone tagged me on Twitter and was like, Baker Mayfield is the problem. I'm like, they won and they ran the football the entire time. Like, what do you mean he is the problem? So, I mean, I get that there's going to be some inconsistencies in that offense, but he didn't get there until like what, the second week of the preseason or something like that, or was it before that? I don't even remember when he got there, but it was late.
He was late. I mean, he was still named the starter, I think, right around that. I think the biggest issue is, like you said, Baker's not going to be a volume passer, regardless if you like him or you hate him. He's just going to try to get enough plays in the end zone for them to pull out victories. Like, that's what they're trying to accomplish in Carolina. They're not trying to turn him into Patrick Mahomes or anybody else. So there's going to be those hit and miss weekends. If he doesn't score, more than likely he's probably going to be a miss for a lot of people. So yeah, that's tough to see with DJ Moore, but it's not, I don't want to call it a Baker problem yet.
Yeah, no, I don't agree. It's a Baker problem. We'll see what happens moving forward. And then David Njoku, kind of my
Ramondre Stevenson.
Your Ramondre Stevenson. Who was it? It was Mike Gesicki a couple of years ago. No matter what call I made, I always got Mike Gesicki wrong. Always. David Njoku's trying to do that to me, especially after I pumped this man up this offseason and said, let's get it. Started in the first 2 weeks. And then really, honestly, that performance on Thursday Night Football kind of came out of nowhere. If you're telling me that you saw that coming, you're lying to yourself. Okay. Yeah. Nobody saw that performance coming, but I hope it continues to come. I think he's more than capable of it, being that number 2 on that offense. And honestly, he should be. And I think we also need to keep in mind that here in the next few weeks, they're going to get Deshaun Watson back, and that can help open up the offense even a little bit more. So David Njoku, hopefully you didn't drop him. I did say we needed to sit him last week, but I did not say drop him as of yet.
Yep. And now we go on to our hits, Kyle, because there was a lot of good suggestions this week that we need to make sure.
There was a lot of good suggestions. I mean, I even text you like on Sunday, and I was like, I don't feel like we have any huge misses outside of a couple of people.
Yeah, not a whole lot. For the biggest hits, first one is Russell Wilson. And the reason why he's a hit, I had him as a sit. And I said, listen, we do not need to start Russell Wilson right now. So that was a hit. Kirk Cousins came out and performed well. Ryan Tannehill is a guy that I spent a lot of time on this offseason. I told a lot of people that if they establish Derrick Henry, Ryan Tannehill will score you fantasy points. They established Derrick Henry yesterday. You saw Ryan Tannehill get some points, had him as a start. CEH continues to just plug along and be that solid running back 2 for you. James Conner is also a hit because I told people to sit him as well. Said I do not care if he plays. I do not care if he's cleared on Thursday. I don't want James Conner this week because I expect them to kind of split those touches a little bit more, whether it be Eno Benjamin or Darrell Williams at the time. We saw that happen. Plus, it was a difficult matchup. J.K. Dobbins, a lot of people were excited that he came back, had to tell everybody, no, we're sitting J.K. Dobbins still until we actually see him, work his way up into game speed and a full workload. So those were some of the hits from the quarterbacks and running backs. But Kyle, I feel like this was a week for some serious hits at the wide receiver position.
There was. I mean, there was several guys who I told people not to freak out on. Amari Cooper being the first one. Don't freak out. He's been wide open. He just hasn't gotten on the same page as Jacoby Brissett yet. And I said that after week 1. Week 2 and week 3, fantastic performances. Absolutely have loved those. And then you move on to a guy like Adam Thielen. And I even said, he hasn't scored yet. The touchdown is coming. Just wait for it. Had him as a start. He ends up scoring this past week. Devontae Smith talked about it. That was a matchup where I could definitely see them throwing the ball quite a bit. And Devontae Smith being a guy that had a big day, he goes out, he gets the touchdown. Had him as a start. Marquise Brown was a start. He had a huge day. I told everybody about Russell Gage, a lot of Cole Beasley questions this weekend. And I said, there is no reason for anybody to be picking up Cole Beasley and starting him. If Julio is out, the guy that you want in this offense is going to be Russell Gage. It ended up being Russell Gage. So a lot of really good performances out of the wide receiver position this week.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like Amari Cooper was so long ago, but I remember talking to you on Thursday night going this is what you saw on film after week 1. The dude is just wide open all over the field. I don't know if I've seen a more consistently wide open receiver in the first 3 weeks of this season than Amari Cooper. The guy is open all over the place.
Open all over the place. And 2 bonus ones, Jake. They're not going to be on the graphic because we didn't give Taylor. Guess what? I didn't get that fly out of my office.
I see a fly right by you.
He's back. I fought with him for an hour earlier.
He's on your microphone. He's giving you the finger right now.
Should I get him?
No, because it's on your microphone. And if it breaks,
He's scared for right now. 2 bonus ones that are not going to be on the graphic.
Oh, Taylor's going to be pissed at you.
Juju Smith-Schuster. Taylor, you don't have to put it on the graphic. Juju Smith-Schuster did a film breakdown on him and said, don't give up. Pretty decent day this past week. Number 2, Brandon Ayuk scored a touchdown. I said, hey, now obviously didn't have a ton of volume, but scored a touchdown. I said, he is still coming as well. He was a sit for me in the video, but I said, hey, me personally, if I own him, I'm going to still start him. I don't care what the score says. I think he's going to find the end zone this week, and he ended up finding it. Now for the touchdown or for the tight ends, Tyler Conklin. Hey,
yeah, that dude was solid.
As a start. He's kind of coming out of nowhere, really performing well.
I hope that stays with Zach Wilson, though.
That's what I was going to say. That's what I talked about in the waiver wire video was Zach Wilson's coming in. Is that relationship going to continue there? But he's been he's been a big part of it. But unfortunately, the reason that he's kind of been a big part of it has been Elijah Moore not being a big part of it. So there has been a little give there, unfortunately. So we'll see what happens.
Yep. And you got one more.
I messaged you.
I don't pay attention to your messages. Trying to get a huge fly out of here. I need to skip George Kittle.
Oh, there we go.
Okay. Well, I got your message. We'll find out.
We might as well keep it in the video now. George Kittle is under hits, but I had him as a sit this week, but then later in the week I said if he plays, he is going to start for me. So he should technically be a miss. That's my fault.
Way to go, Kyle. Kyle's giving himself a hit and a miss in the same show at the end of it.
I gave myself 2 bonus hits, so I figured, I'll
throw one in there just in case. All right. Well, hey, it's been a rough week for a lot of people, but week 4 is here now. We wash the slate clean. We don't, totally freak out about all these players because honestly, a lot of these guys are going back into lineups once again in week 4. You can't afford to just sit your studs. When you do that, when you get too cute, especially early on in the season, it just doesn't turn out any better because the last thing you want is to have a fragile mindset right now, Kyle. Maybe you're just I don't know what's going on with my team. And then you get cute and you sit your studs and then your studs go off on your bench. That is not good for the mentals, Kyle. Yeah. You don't want that to happen. Trust your gut, go with the studs you got, and things are going to get better. It's just a rough start overall for almost everybody here in fantasy football.
Yeah, listen, if you think you're struggling right now, every other fantasy manager out there is struggling right now. There are a few people who are off to great starts, which is good. We're seeing a lot of people in the comments still right now that are like, yeah, I'm off to a fantastic start. So there are
Mhm.
some people out there, but from a player standpoint, there are a lot of guys struggling right now, a lot of them. And I think it has to do with so many stars sitting during the preseason, because technically their preseason would be over right now because so many of them didn't even take one snap.
Yep. And that plays a huge part
Yep.
to get that chemistry, to get that timing down. Once again, I don't care if you've played together for years, just to get back into that game speed is going to take a little bit of time. And hopefully that's the case, Kyle. Hopefully now that we're through week 3, technically that could be the preseason for a lot of these players. And now starting week 4, it's all systems go and we start scoring some absolutely huge points here. But we want to make sure we take this time every week, recap our biggest hits, misses, underperforming studs, whatever it is that Kyle has going on with his fingers, flies
I'm trying
in
to
the
cross
office.
everything right now for good luck.
Okay, I got you. I'm glad that we could only see your fingers, but yeah, Kyle, things are going to get better, Kyle, but we want to make sure we took this time to give you guys this information just so you don't overly panic about some of these guys. But it's time to dive into week 4 content. Hopefully you guys are ready for another week of fantasy football. Got you coming with some start sits, some rankings, the tailgate show, the injury update, whatever it is you need, we got you covered. So make sure you stay tuned, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already. And for myself and Kyle, we're done for the day.
We're done with it.
We're done with it. We're gonna go take a nap.